Charlie, can you go ahead and start the Zoom on my computer? Are you upstairs? You're on speaker, so they can- No, are you on my Zoom account? Oh, you should go to Zoom and hit start meeting for today's date.
There'll be a quiz at the end.
True or false?
No, there'll be an essay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Gotta see if you're awake.
Can't sign into my computer, can't sign into Zoom. Barn dark. It should be set already though.
Is this going to be on YouTube also?
Yes.
Today, earlier, right?
This one I'm setting up because
And do you know what the Wi-Fi is here?
Buddhist with
try
2D
this
or
one.
Is it
2T?
guest?
I don't know, Ben. It should, I don't know what it is.
Test, test.
Let's see, BCS guest?
Let me get the password for you.
Buddhist with 2T?
Change the password then if you can't. Just change the password.
Is there a 14-year-old in here who knows about computers?
No.
I need help afterwards for logging into a San Jose thing. No, my computer's been real funny. I get Gmail, and as soon as I log on to an email, it has it in letter form. It skips it, and then it doesn't let me see what the email is except for that.
Charlie, that's not for you.
Well, I went to Google to find out how to can't understand the instructions on how to fix it.
Return.
I'm looking for it, okay?
It just started happening a week or so ago, and I can't, you go previous screen, and nothing happens. It's locked in. Yeah. Good.
I don't know what to tell you, Charlie. Change password then. You don't want to. It won't let you right in. It should let you right in.
No, it's not.
You should be able to
you know who's going to be on? What other temple?
Test, test. Is this a good volume? Should it be? Okay. Just, you have to speak pretty close up to the mic.
Did you boot me out, Charlie? Why is it auto Zoom? I have no idea. No, he's on call. Okay. Okay, well, if you can't, you can just have the number. Just go on YouTube, watch it on YouTube, okay? All right, I gotta go. Bye. Bye. Yeah, why does it keep doing that? Yeah, it's like it's doing its own thing with the auto zoom. People just can't kind of put one camera on the camera. It's fine though, it's not really recording. Why is that thing like an auto zoom?
Auto soon?
If somebody walks in front of it, it changes it, but it's okay right now.
What? Something else is right. Because it focuses.
Are you ready? Yeah.
Yeah, it's live. You want player versus one? Just check.
See, every time somebody walks, it zooms out.
Yeah. Not really.
Why is it?
Because it's
Okay.
picking up motion.
It's picking up camera.
Yep.
So I need to move that camera.
You need to turn.
Yeah, we need an expert, computer expert.
So I was waiting for Terry Omori to show up. Terry Omori is the immediate past BCA president, but she is also the new chair of propagation and management and membership for the BCA, and she's working with Reverend Akahoshi on this one. And so, growing up in San Jose, I knew him as Dr. Akahoshi. So I told him, forgive me because I keep wanting to call you Dr. Akahoshi instead of Reverend Akahoshi. So, most people retire and relax, right? after his dental practice, 3 years as an Air Force captain, church board president of the San Jose Betsuine for 2 years, Santa Clara County Juvenile Hall chaplain for 7 years. He retired, but he is, I think, I see more of him now than I did before, although he was all the way down in San Diego. So now he does things such as, after serving in San Diego for 8 years, roughly, he retired, but he has been to the Hawaii Kyodan, and he's done workshops with Hawaii Kyodan. He is developing programs that started, about 3 years ago, I think, right, on propagation and management. And so we see him a lot more, and I don't think he knows how to rest after retirement, but as you can see through his talks this morning, and now he has a passion for the teachings and to share these teachings. But if we don't do our work to grow and strengthen our Sanghas, who does this passion and this teachings go to, right? So he is here to share today his ideas on how we can work on strengthening the Sangha. You received 2 handouts. The one that's 4 pages long is the one he is going to be his guide today to today's talk. The other one that's folded in half is an example of a type of brochure you can create for people that come to visit your temple. And the idea is not that, sure, you might hand out 200 of these things and wonder if they're going to come back, but remember, if they've got it in their hot little hand, it's something they can look at and then someday go, and check it out again. So without further ado, Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi.
Thank you, Darlene. I knew Darlene's dad, who was a dentist, and her uncle, Ernie, who was a dentist for everyone in San Jose. He was my dentist when I was a kid. After I left dentistry, he was still practicing, and I think he practiced for 50 years, was really honored for the Santa Clara Dental Society. In any event, I actually didn't retire from dentistry. I was planning to become a minister in the 1980s, but I was too busy at church. Continued to volunteer at Temple, but I was so busy with activities that I started the School of Psychology and couldn't keep up. So after a year, I dropped out, and I did that a couple of times. It wasn't until I dropped everything at the Temple except the discussion group that I was able to get through 3 years and get a degree in it's called transpersonal psychology, meaning that the area of psychology that deals with the human and our spiritual life. And that's where I bring a lot, much of my thinking. Let's first start with Nembutsu. So please join me in Nembutsu. Gassho, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nammandao, Nammandao. So I think it might be good to preface what I'm going to say with my background in that coming back from the Air Force in 1971, I was very curious and started attending a lot of different classes. And being in San Jose, the Bay Area, we had all these great psychologists. I was with the philosopher Peter Kostenbaum for 3 years, saw him every week in the group session. But anyway, we had different Buddhist teachers, and Shunryu Suzuki had his Soto Zen, the Zen Center of San Francisco. So I was involved in a lot of that. And I kept wondering, of course, I was still busy at San Jose Betsuine, but wondering why we weren't using some of these methods. And so my thinking has kind of been in and outside of our traditional teachings. And so when I finally did get to IBS, I went through, but again, my background was different. And one thing I did to service, now I'll start here today, the difference I see is 2 things: the time of the Buddha and his writings, and the time of Shinran, and which was 500. The difference of centuries. And the other difference is cultures. And so I do this. What does this mean to a lot of people? To some of the older people with Japanese backgrounds, it means oide, or come here. And to a lot of Americans, this is goodbye. So some of the things we're doing, which was true 500 years ago, has an opposite effect in America. Because the world used to be flat, or thought of as flat, and now it's not. We used to have Newtonian physics, and now it's all about quantum physics. And, it's very different. And so what I'll be doing is trying to explain Shin Buddhism from a contemporary viewpoint. And so I'm using words that are hopefully more familiar and breaking things down to where I think they're more relevant to us. This is not an alternative, but I think we need a entry level. And Bishop Yamaoka said this many years ago with his 6 aspects. In the West, in America, we need a educational system. In Japan, I think Buddhism, especially Shin, has influenced the culture so much, it's within the culture. It's in all the words, arigatai, the bowing, okage-sama. And so when you hear Dharma talk, you walk outside and it's all around us. In America, we think quite differently. And this is what I picked up from some of the courses I was attending, in the 70s and 80s in the Bay Area. So that's kind of the background. And so what we've been doing with this propagation and membership committee in BCA is trying to figure out ways of improving interest and attendance. And one of the things we noticed, because this has been going on for 3 or 4 years, where they were having videos of benefits or, I am OCBC and things like that, and somehow some of this material has not gotten down to the regular member. And so I'll be addressing that. But it is taking an outside look. And this is not to be critical, but it's just looking at how temples are trying to increase membership from the outside. In other words, when we're internal, it's hard to see what we're doing. In psychology, it's always nice to have a therapist come in from the outside and point things out. We talk about, being akunin or bombu, and this is our shadow side. Now, a therapist could talk about that. You could find out, just ask your spouse what your dark side is, or a good friend. And so, again, what we're trying to do is just kind of evaluate what we're doing. And there is a structure here that we've developed, but it's to fit in each individual temple, because there are temples with 100 members or 500, or, it needs to be different with different, conditions and culture of different temples. But I'll start out by saying, if you were shopping and you saw this store in a strip mall and wonder what's in there because the signage wasn't very good, and you walked in and you thought, well, I'll get the latest thing I saw on TV about technology. And you asked the clerk, do you have this? And the clerk said, gee, I don't know. I'll have to go ask the manager. And then you notice that the things on the shelves were not in real good order. Again, you'd ask another salesperson. They'll say, well, I'll have to go ask the manager. Would you go back to that store if it didn't have a good sign outside and you weren't sure what they were selling inside? No, we wouldn't go back. And yet sometimes people are interested in this Buddhism thing, and they come and they want to know what it's about, and we say, go ask the minister, as if there's an answer. And what I've discovered, we did many of these things in San Diego, people are not that interested at this initial level to know what Buddhism is about. Do you have 3 hours? I'll give you a simple introduction. What they're trying to find out is this a place I want to, be around? Is it safe? And so this is how we want members to realize things. And so it's important that the whole membership begins to see how a new person coming in might, encounter Buddhism. And it's as if we went to some other organization and we're interested in it. And, you walk in and everyone's a stranger and people are ignoring you. It's kind of hard. You're not sure if you want to come back. And so what we're trying to promote are things that make people welcome and things that help people take the next step. Often we feel that if we put out a notice, it's in the newsletter, it's on our website, why aren't people joining? We have to make it easy for people to take the next step. I have in the handouts, and the reason I do these handouts is rather than having a PowerPoint and such, I think that just following this may be helpful in addressing what we're talking about. So the first question is, why are you here, you personally? why do you come to the Shin temple? Yeah, some of the guys are missing Sunday football games. Sometimes the guys are not missing. uh, yes. Uh-huh. Right. So online, I don't know if people could hear on with streaming, but you just said that she just said that she grew up here and wants her children also. But each of us has a reason. So think about why you're actually here. Your parents, or is it an interest in religion? You want to know about Jodo Shinshu itself? Or is it a guide to life? We want our children to have a guide. There are plenty of guides out there. Go to the bookstore or library. There's all kinds of books on how to live. Some may be accurate, some may be not so accurate. But here we have, something that's proven over centuries. And so why are you here? And the next question is, why aren't your relatives, your friends, and others not here? And especially your classmates from Dharma School or YBA. So we don't need to put out too many surveys. We just have to, ask our friends. And if it's like my son and his family, they're busy with sports, the children's sports on Sundays. Used to be that things were not, people did not do things on a Sunday morning. Now, they're all playing soccer, baseball, whatever it is. And then, so what are the benefits at a Shin temple? Think of what the benefits are. And this is what BCA promoted. Reverend Harada talked about this 3-4 years ago, where people talked about the benefits. So when we encounter people who are looking, they're curious and what does Shin Buddhism offer, we could start out with the primal vow or Shinjin, that brings in people. Or we could say what the benefits we have found. And the very, common practical benefits. Friendship, you learn things. And that's what we're here. We don't have to explain something as deep as a religion, what the Pure Land might be. That comes later. But initially, like I know in San Jose, we have visitors all the time. The San Jose temple is located right in Japantown. People are wandering around. Oh, look at this Japanese-looking temple. They come in. Very few have stayed or come back a second time. And this is addressing that kind of thing. In San Diego, we were in a part of town, and I know I stopped in this. In San Diego, unless you're buying a used tire or visiting a friend going through rehab, you didn't come into our neighborhood very much. So, we need to have methods of having people come to our temple, or they might see it online, and then what do we do after that? And then the next question, D, is what keeps others away? What is it that, the benefits that attract people, and what is it that keeps people away? And is it that things are foreign, and, we use these foreign words that sometimes aren't explained? And the whole thing we have to realize are that we're in the context of a Christian nation. And now we have an administration that, may be looking at that, this is God's country and so forth. And so these are not, used to be kind of, theoretical, but now we see that there may be a movement toward, making a Christian nation a more real thing. And what does that mean? And so what is it that keeps people away? And we, early American Buddhists were interpreting things from a Christian standpoint because those were the only words. Onward, Buddhist soldiers, talking about the afterlife and, is it heaven or nirvana? Which would you prefer to go to? And so we have to look at things and how we might explain it to the current population. So what I'm looking at first is what's our present condition? So that first thing we have is what are people seeking from Buddhism? Can anyone add to that? been very popular in the 1950s. No one knew about things. And then only these hippies or weird guys were doing this meditation thing. And now it's, with John Kabat-Zinn, fortunately, bringing it into the health community, the medical community. If anyone has a health condition, they're often referred to, MB, meditation-based, anyway, his technique, MBRA. So it has practical benefits. And I think we could use that kind of thinking with Shin Buddhism, using gratitude as something that helps people. There are other writers writing things about gratitude. Shin Buddhism is all about gratitude, Japanese culture. But anyway, this is what people are looking at. And so what are the Shin Buddhism things we talk about? And that's number B there. Pure Land, Hongan, Bombu, Self-Power, Shinjin. So is this, would this be attractive to people? I mean, and this is what I'm saying with our present Dharma School and YBA children. In the 80s and 90s, there were virtually hundreds of students in Dharma School conferences and so forth. Why have they drifted away? So these are questions that I think we can ask and answer without putting out great surveys, just asking our families. So how can we convey the essence, the messages of B, the Shin concepts, in a way that relates to A? And this is where I fudge a lot as an introduction to Shin Buddhism. I say things that may not be traditionally even accurate, but they convey a sense of what Shin Buddhism is. As I said, it's an entry level that we don't seem to have. And so how might we present Shin Buddhism? Now, this is where I change things continually. So whatever I did last week or last presentation, it's different. So rather than going to number, page 2 on top there, it says, how might we present Shin Buddhism? Instead of talking about the benefits, which we used to do initially, go down to the bottom where it says recommended methods. And this is where I could use some feedback. But the first thing, and there are 6 areas. What we're saying is that there are at least six areas that might be tied together in the sense that they support each other. That we just don't do one thing and say, well, did it work? Are people coming? There are areas that we have to really look at that interrelate. And so the first one would be websites. And if you look at your website and see how friendly that is, and it takes experts to know, what's happening. And so it may have to be revamped or, how easy is it for people to find out how to get to an event at your temple? And I don't know much about this area, but I know like Palo Alto and OCBC have very wonderful website. It tends not to say a whole lot about Buddhism or Shin Buddhism, but it shows happy people enjoying themselves. And this is the kind of thing you see on the web. Because what we're attracting in one part are people who are not familiar with Buddhism. Most of our families are integrated racially, ethnically. And yet the temples don't seem to be that way. And yet I know in San Diego we had, when we had a kiyashiki where people took a Buddhist name, 17 out of 35 were non-Japanese, coming in virtually off the street. And so anyway, I think we want to share these teachings with everyone. I think what people are looking for, kind of a spiritual or religious guidance, teachings that is based on natural law, like gravity, something that is dependable, not just on belief. Belief is based on something that can be experienced. And so I think Shin Buddhism is something that people are looking for, and often people will say, I didn't know I was a Buddhist. And there are different types of Buddhism, and I think Shin Buddhism has a particular offering, starting from gratitude. But that's just the beginning, because that is familiar. People understand. You don't have to explain what gratitude is about. there's a connection right away. But anyway, that's why we have gratitude there. So down at the bottom, it's to invite people to pique their interest and then explain, the benefits. And oftentimes, and I make, like I said, I make my own mistakes because I realize on this pamphlet we'll talk about, and actually I call it a handout, I was explaining a lot about Shin doctrine. And basically, again, I think we should put it in practical, common terms so that people can read it and say, oh, this is what I'm interested in. I've been anxious. I want to find a way to calm down, or I have these interpersonal problems, and gratitude, how can that help? And yes, it does help us. So again, provide access, to our events, whether it be services or other things like that. So let's see. Now, with the websites, actually, BCA is kind of looking at ways in which we might coordinate things. And I may be speaking way out of turn here ahead, but that there are people at BCA who, we can refer people who are expert in this, young guys. I talk about the 14-year-old we can depend on. But no, there are people who can do websites that work. And things might be coordinated in the future where, most temples are somewhat similar in the sense that they give the same information, and it might be run by people who really are knowledgeable and professional about websites. But again, the explanation of rituals and so forth could be on that, and yet that might be getting ahead of the game too much, People aren't, they're interested, but what is it that really will draw them back? Is it the fact that they can, burn incense or chant? Maybe not. But anyway, looking at that. So on page 3 here, the extensive historical and doctrinal presentation. Sometimes we hand them pamphlets, and I think sometimes the people who benefit from that are the students who are taking comparative religions at a college. They come in and they can write their paper by taking a couple of pamphlets. But does that draw them back the next time or to bring their families? I don't think so. So anyway, that's the website. Comments on websites, any? Okay, yeah. So again, this is an area that I personally don't know a thing about, except, I go to different temples' websites to see, how do you navigate things, and there are different. But there are people who are really knowledgeable and professional about it, and they could set up a website that is very inviting and making it easy to find out information. And then the next part. Right, yeah. That's what we've been doing for 50 years, and we see the results of that are people not coming back. So we have to realize that it's not working. I say, gee, if some of these things we talk about, if they don't work, would we continue? No. Well, why do we continue what we did in 1980 and 1990? And I'm not being that critical. I'm just pointing out the fact that people are disappearing. Not only not attracting people, but people who are here do not return. And so, again, we need to, really look at that. So the next thing I realize is communication within the temple may not be what we think it is. Sometimes we say, well, it's on, in our newsletter. Who gets the newsletter? Or it's on our website, and some of the older people don't get onto websites. And so whether temples might look and see how information gets from, BCA to the leadership of a temple, the ministerial staff, to organizations in the temple and the member. And I say this because we gave this program in a much cruder form, I think, about 3 years ago. And then I find out no one's heard about it. and never got from the ministers or the delegates who went to BCA National Council meeting back to even the board or assistants, ministers' assistants, or members. And prior to that, there were videos and talks about the benefits, to share. And so we need to look at all the things that are offered by BCA. Sometimes we hear, what does BCA do? There's CBE, continuing education programs on Saturday, and, covering all kinds of topics. And yet, how many people may attend that? There may be, 20, 30, 40, but why aren't there 100 people attending? These things are available, and yet membership may not be aware of that. So the second part, communication and information, is look and see and talk about how information is available and how it actually filters down to the member. And I know we have representatives who are supposed to share things. They go to a board meeting and they're supposed to share it with their group, whether it's Taiko or Sangha support or whatever. But it doesn't seem to do that. So again, just to tighten things up to see, are these things working? And if not, how can we get some feedback to realize, people say, I never heard that. We knew about the udon sales or the, chicken teriyaki sale, but then they don't know about some of these other things. And so just to look and see how communication is, handled in temples, both going down and coming back up. How do the members get leadership, ministers, to know what they're looking for? Is there a suggestion box or something like that? But communication seems to be one area, and it's different between a temple that may have 100 or 200 members and one that might have, 500 or 600 members. So again, communication is important. Now, the welcome, this second handout we have, I made the mistake initially of calling it a pamphlet. I'm now just calling it a welcome handout. And the idea, Darlene, I didn't explain this earlier, but the idea is that with our computers, we should be printing these things out every month. And only print out 10 or 20 or the you think of new people coming in. And the idea is to hand each new face this handout, a welcome handout. And I guess we could, I think I'll talk about it later because we'll talk about it at the end. But on the fourth side, and again, it's 4 pages, but it's folded like a funeral little program, where the first page is, the opening introduction, and then the inside second page lists benefits of the temple. The third page might be some of your activities or organizations. And then the back page has books or times of the services, videos, podcasts now. There are podcasts available, BCA websites and things like that. But the important thing are the events coming up next month or the next 2 months. And this is why I say in the age of computers, you just hand these things out, and then next month you print it up again. And you put the new things that are coming up for the next 2 months. And then, like I'm doing, I keep rewording things. I find that I use the wrong word, like pamphlet. I'm using handout now. It's a throwaway, basically. But people have the phone number, the website, and they may keep it or they might throw it away. But each person has something. We welcome people, but then we lose track. But this is something everyone has, and it makes it more convenient for them to connect with the temple, especially that back page. And the last thing you see there is finances and donations. We want people to realize that, yes, we offer things without cost on many things, but then the temple needs to be supported financially or with help. This is where your volunteer help comes in. So I put that in there so that again, there's the sense that, oh, yeah, they have these free classes. Yeah, they're free, but we encourage people to donate, to get in. Because, again, this is something that's ingrained in most Japanese culture, that you come to the temple, whatever service it is, there's a donation. That's not a real habit, I think, in many other religious organizations. You know, it might be, but again, we need to stress that. So any questions about this handout? I call it a welcome handout, and it's just, again, and we have there, like the benefits. I've changed that. It started out with 4, now we have about 6. But it's just things that you think would interest people. How does it help your life? And then, again, just printing up new ones. You know, if you have 10 people 1 month and you have 20 the next, print up 20. You know, it's just easy now with the computer to have something printed. But yeah, I don't know how to make the 4 pages into a folded page, but again, ask your 14-year-old expert on how to do that. Any questions on the handout? We'll kind of get back to that in benefits when we talk about that later. As you see, I'm skipping, before I gave this program, doing the benefits first, and I'm realizing that wasn't as well as doing the methods first and then going back to the benefits. So, okay, the third thing, regular Sunday services. Now, it's good to have greeters, but another way to do this is to have everyone say hello. If you have greeters, you may have people saying, well, I'm not on this Sunday, so, you know, Mary and Tom will take care of it. But if you change the culture of the temple where every member sees a new face and says, hello, my name is Kenji, you know, what's yours? Yeah. Why don't you come in? Can I help you sit down with this book? Now that for many of us is very hard to do. And yet that's what it's about. That people come in and like I said, if we go to some new organization, we kind of feel out of place. Gee, do I fit in? I'll just sit in the back here and be quiet and, you know, observe and never come back. That's what happens. We have visitors all the time who never come back. But then to have our members begin to just walk up and introduce themselves, you know, and the concern has always been, they're going to ask me what Buddhism is about. And I'll have to say, well, there was this, you know, Bodhisattva Dhammakaya that, you know, 10 kalpas ago said this and that. No, it's just, the best answer I get from one of our members, Mexican-American, Elena, was, you know, I was asking, you know, why do you like to come here? And she said, it makes me feel good. That's the best answer we can give. Why do you come here? It makes me feel good to be here. And that's the level of, you know, where instead of all this enunciation of what the doctrine is about, people, you know, say, oh, this is an interesting place. It makes you feel good to come here. And anyway, that's what I'm trying to put across, that we could have greeters, but if we can get the culture to shift to have members just say, you know, my name is such and such, what's yours? You know, please come join, sit down. And different temples do that automatically. You know, I've been to different temples. And it's more difficult now that I'm a minister because people know me. But, you know, before I'd go to different temples and, you know, you just see how the culture is. And some temples, they're polite and they don't engage you. or they might introduce you at the, you know, beginning of the service and that's kind of it, you know. But what we have here is something we can do. The other thing I have, there's a little asterisk there, request sign in with name and email. We have people coming all the time and we lose them. So you'll have a couple of sign-up sheets that say if you're interested in more information or something like that, please use your name and email. And we're not going to harass them, you know, ring the doorbell and here's the Dharma. But we just want a way that we can connect, that we can tell them what the next event would be. So that is very important. But then you do need someone to keep track of that, someone responsible. Because again, we've had things in San Jose, and I've asked, oh, where's that list from last year's Obon? Because we had that introductory talk, and people didn't know where that was. So you need something, yeah.
Question.
Yes.
In San Jose, we noticed that we happened to stop by the church to go to the office, and they have an open house where the temple doors are open, and I guess you're just inviting anybody to come check. Is that, how often is that done? And how of a good of an outreach has that been?
Well, I think Dennis Hachizuki kind of started that, and I haven't said very much. Being the retired minister, I don't say very much, except I'm becoming more involved as I see that, things haven't worked. San Jose is located in Japantown. People are wandering about all the time. And so on Wednesdays, they keep the temple open from noon to 5, I think, and Dennis or some other people are in there so they can explain things. But I would recommend, now here it's a little different because you're kind of away from everything, but depending on where your temple is, you might have weekends or some designated time where people might be interested, in San Jose, I would recommend that they do it on weekends. I mean, people are really in Japantown on weekends, and there's so much opportunity there. So right now, it's just people might wander in, but it's just Wednesdays, and it depends on who's available on Wednesdays and to walk in. So to make better use of members' time, I would think of a good time, and maybe advertise it on your website or something, rather than just having walk-ins. Again, San Jose has the advantage of being in a location where people walk by, see this temple, and it's designated as a historical site or something. There's a sign out there. So something, anything to bring in people. When people come in, sometimes you have these handout sheets and what Oshoko is about or chanting, and you could have that, or you can have people just kind of explaining. And I explain much of our ritual in a little different way, a little more contemporary way, where I say that burning incense is our participation in realizing things change. We're solid. We will be ashes and smoke soon. The chanting is a way of being together. This is our experience of oneness, that we come in as individuals, and one of the first rituals we do is chanting. It's not so much to understand the words and what it's saying, because some of the words are archaic and mythological and isn't that relatable. But it means that we all come in with different tones of voices, paces, enunciation, and yet we're singing as one. So this is an experience of oneness. So people kind of get that our lives seem to be independent, but here we come and we're chant together and we have this one voice. And incense burning as not so much a purification or honoring. It has these other implications, but it is also this experiencing the second noble truth of impermanence. And then the chanting is this experience of interdependence. That's where, we are together. And then the whole thing of, three treasures, what I was saying at our talk this morning, that we are receiving these things. And then ondok-san, that we serve others. We realize what we have received, so we serve others. And then, of course, the Dharma talk is relating the doctrine, the Dharma, to everyday life. And how does this help? It's not so much history, but, the history should be there, but how does that affect our lives right now? And I think it's there. Again, I shouldn't get into this part, but what Shinran Renyo, even the Buddha, was talking about was the after. Because as a peasant, your grandfather was a peasant, you're a peasant, your grandson's going to be a peasant. When is life going to get better? He's saying, no. Raman seems to be pleased. It says Jesus, please, I want to go to your land. I don't want to go to Jesus' heaven. But it's not. It's thank you. And to me, it's thank you for the human birth. Because the one quality you need to go to the true land is what? All things that need. One quality you need is to be born a human life. We did it. We are born. So this is one thing that we're saying thank you for. How did I do it? How did I service and then you go home. And we wonder why people need the hospitality. You need, I always say that in the Hondo we have our service and the ritual and that's the favorite part of it. Then when we go outside in the hospitality and the Sangha, that's where Buddhism happens as we interact with people. So Toki is where it happens, memorially. And it's meeting each other as people. And one of the explanations that I have to do with other Buddhists is that, we are ordinary people and our spirituality comes out in ordinary life. And I take my Buddhism from the Sangha, who could not tell you what the Eightfold Path is. Think about whether your parents could tell you what the point of the truth was. All these things that we think are ordinary teachers are important. But they live the life of gratitude and spirituality in everyday life. And so this comes through in rituals and things that we do as a habit. I'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, this hospitality I think is important. Having food is I think this is something that chairs, tables, and it would be good if the speaker could be present to answer questions. And there might be a discussion to it. Most people just want to talk, hey, what have you been doing? How's your heart? How's your health? So forth. But you might want to have a table where people want to talk about So, and then the other thing with after the Sunday Shippers would be having some sort of weekly or regular discussion. And it could be at the introductory level or and it could be 3 or 4 weeks in a row and it could really I like to call it, I don't like to call things Buddhism 101. And this has come down, when Buddhism was in Japan before Commodore Perry, it was Bukpo, a way of life. And then with the entry of Western thought, you need both? Oh. With Commodore Perry, we realized that some of the religions were more academic, and so it became, Bukkyo, kyo meaning more intellectual. So I always called our discussion talk and discussion, because I think it is a talk and discussion, rather than information. Again, for those students who are taking comparative religion, people are interested, how does this help me in my everyday life? So anyway, that's the Sunday. Where are we? Okay, now, so I think hopefully we're past the point where we say go ask the minister, but we can just share, how this, I enjoy coming here because I see my friends, or I learn tidbits on, how my life could be better. The Dharma talks really helped me realize, that religion is an important part of my life. So again, just sharing these everyday things rather than explaining doctrine, because I don't think people are coming in and saying, could you really tell me what Shinjin is about? Or tell me about this Pure Land? Yeah, there are some of those, and they'll, proceed to find, ask about that. But most people just want a place to hang out with other people who are friendly, and we're that. But I think the war and the camp experience has really affected us. I've written a book, and I have a chapter there that, the temples was a refuge after camp. This was the only place we could feel safe. And that was through the 70s, 80s, 90s. But then things have changed. And so now in the 21st century, we still have that lingering thought that this is our place. And yet, looking at our children, they're out in the world, in the general public. And so I think we're open to sharing what we have with others. Okay. So any talk about that? Anyway, this sign up is important, and this welcome handout, I think, is important. How are we doing? Oh, okay. I better talk faster here. Okay, another area, and again, all these things connect, are temple organization in groups. You have a new person come in and you say, oh yeah, why don't you join our groups? Would you like to join the junior IBA or the BWA? And so, yeah, you have things like pickleball. That's great. Whether it's ukulele, pickleball, people want to socialize. And yeah, you have a discussion group or whatever. But we need to have something that an outsider might be interested in joining. Eco Sangha, and I know my wife's been involved in that. Reverend Castro is going to be getting him out of retirement a little bit because he started this thought decades ago. But people are interested in ecology, especially the younger people. The plastic in their food is a concern. And so anyway, whatever group you need to have, and whether it's Japanese, sports, karate, or, think about ideas. We have Sangha support that, has classes on all kinds of different things that help us. Dana, giving to charity. So just think of different organizations that you can start to accommodate people who are coming in and who want to know something. And I'll just throw this idea came in recently. Sometimes we talk about, and this didn't happen in San Diego, everyone kind of meshed together, but sometimes people are concerned that, it's going to be too non-Japanese. I remember my dad, who is Kibe, saying that, in the 30s, before the war, he went to Japan, came back in high school, and was a Kibe. And there was a kind of a rift between the Nisei who grew up and stayed here and the ones that went to Japan and came back. And so Reverend Tsumura, the older Tsumura at that time in the 1930s, asked my dad to form a group of the Kibes, and they called it the Senshinkai. And so this was made up of Kibes. And so there was a group of people who were educated in Japan, but spoke English, and they were born in America. And when they got married and so forth, my dad said that group, there were about, 20, 30 people, and their wives. He said they had the most consistent and highest rated attendance. Every time they had a meeting, it was 100%. And they went to services. And again, at bazaars, they had their booth, and they did whatever, chicken teriyaki or whatever. So we can have different groups like that. If we think we want to maintain a Japanese nest, that may be fine. And some temples may want to have another interested group. But there are creative ways of doing things. And, because Reverend Tsumura asked my dad to do that, this group was very strong. But anyway, just to give a thought that there are lots of different things we can do. So any questions on groups here? Just to fill interest. And I have at the bottom here follow up with families of funerals and memorial services. Yeah, this is when people begin to realize there's something more than what we do every day. Again, my background in transpersonal psychology, I have this thing about initiation. This is when a child, and sometimes we're 50 years old, but you realize there has to be more than life because you realize you can die. And this is when religion, spirituality counts. And it's not that it wasn't there, it's been there all the time. And in ancient times, at puberty, children, and this is what I do, you heard about the vision quest. Adolescents would go out. I ran this program for high school seniors in San Jose. And they would go out to find out their identity as an adult. They would allow the child to die, what we call the survival mentality, to reach for their authentic mentality. And it would come out through their inner person, reflected off of nature, whether it was a tree or animals. And so they would come back and say, I'm a warrior. But it wasn't an independent. It was a warrior for the tribe, or I'm a cook for the tribe. They were an adult, but their identity was with the bigger group. And we do this naturally when we have children. Our little ego expands, and our child is more important than us. That's our ego. And we talk about eliminating the ego, but from a psychological standpoint, you can't do that. Psychologists tell us. And so I talk about expanding the ego. But this is one thing where death wakes us up, and there is more to life. And it's not that we're looking, I don't think Shinan was not talking about so much the afterlife. That's taken care of in our mythology. We have Amida. But we can do something when we have a body now. But again, this has to be, we have to talk about this in more detail because it's a little complex. But anyway, this is what temples and religions are about. A lot is focused on the afterlife, but I think Shinran said, it is now. We're awake now. So that's temples and groups. Yes?
I have a question. So just so you know, he has already worked with a set of temples. I believe it's Yakima and Spokane are the small ones, San Diego and Vista being the middle size, and Mountain View and San Jose being the larger temples. And with respect to this particular category of the concept of starting a new group, have you seen a particular trend that maybe is appealing to outsiders that is a good starting point to think about as far as a new group?
No, to be clear, the 6 temples you named are the ones we have suggested. And what Terry and I are doing is realizing that we put out this program, but it's hard to implement. It's kind of, you got these 6 areas. Where do we start, like you're asking? And so we've kind of volunteered to work with temples to implement this program. Like the larger ones, San Jose and Mountain View, I'm still waiting for, San Jose is going to have a meeting next week. Still waiting to get names of who might be instrumental at that temple. You people here might be instrumental in, dispersing this type of thought. And a few of you would say, I volunteer to really implement this part of this. But no, I don't have any particular area. And each temple, again, whatever, if you have a strong Aikido person or ukulele person, yeah, you just have to figure out what works. Again, pickleball seems to be popular. I know several temples did that. And again, I think just to get people involved. And then, we're happy our grandson got involved in Cub Scouting, and so now is, coming into things. And so whatever method or areas you can think of, And then it's part of it, it's not just learning Jodo Shinshu, it's being with people. And then just being in the community of people who think, with gratitude and concern for others and things like that. A lot of these things are just passed on, through osmosis, just, being with each other. So, let's see. Introductory talks. Oh, this is the other thing. Every temple has some big fundraiser. Obon, of course, is the obvious one. But then you could have a spaghetti feed or crab feed or any big thing. Well, I shouldn't say any, but think about having an introductory talk at that. If it's Obon, things are going on, you have from 1 to 1:30 or something, the minister will have an introductory talk. And you get a whole bunch of people on it. What do? You get the name and email. If you're interested in more information, sign this. And so you have a name and email. But, and you just have a short talk, and it shouldn't be like a demonstration of how it is. I say if you went to the Southwest and wanted to know about Mexican Native Americans, and you had some people doing the hoop dance and feathers and showed you costumes. Oh, that's interesting. Would you want to join that tribe? No, we're all kind of fixated on different ethnic groups in the 1800s. What's the life of a Native American now? It's terrible, right? On the reservations, poorest areas of the country. when people come in here, we chant and we say, well, you know, oh, how exotic the wine is and so forth. But will they want to join? So I'm saying the talk should be, how does this spirituality that has been here for 800 years, for a couple thousand years, how does it help you? That's what people are more interested in. Yeah, there are people who are interested in all this exotic stuff, but they're not the people who are going to be your members, most probably. So what I'm saying is, what these introductory talks are aimed at are for people to come in. And I know, like in San Diego, we brought in members who had disappeared, who said they were food Buddhists. They just came, they were members, but they just came for Obohon, or, you know, when the temple was selling food. And then they started realizing that there's a message in Shin Buddhism. So it is this introductory way, you know, you have people from all over coming in for some event. And you might have just a short introductory talk, but you have that list. And then what you do is you have a week or two later, soon afterwards, you have an hour class. And out of that, you may only have 10 or 20 people coming, but those are the people who are interested. So at that class, you can be a little more, you know, detailed about what's going on. And then I would say several times a year, you would have these introductory talks, you know. But these major fundraisers we have are great ways of doing things. I know we had that Techno Buddha in San Jose, and I'm going to ask next week, did we get any names? I don't think anyone took names from that. It was very popular. We saw people coming from all over, you know. It was in LA and San Jose. But we haven't taken advantage of an event like that. It's very interesting, and people are, you know, oh, this is modern, and it was pretty cool. And in Japan, they're thinking about, I mean, this guy has been doing this in Japan for at least a dozen years, or, yeah, for some time. But anyway, so you need to have a name and an email. People who are interested, get back with them, think of ways of having another lesson later. So, yeah. Okay, that was a light show that was really amazing. Yeah, I thought it was good. And then we were dancing. I wasn't dancing, but people were dancing. I don't know if I were younger. Okay, and then community outreach. This is where, again, you can make your minister's assistants, and just other lay people available going to different activities within your community. You know, we had elections, just different things happen in the community. There are interfaith things going on. But anyway, just to show people that, you know, Buddhists are here in Stockton or, you know, whatever city you're in. And, you know, to become part of the community. So anyway, the other thing is, since you have, depending on what temple, I'm talking the Northern District, I guess, depending on where your temple is, to make your facilities available to other groups, whether it's a voting area, you know, you want to make your place, your gymnasium available so people could vote there. You say, oh, this is a Buddhist temple, yeah. You know, I might come back on Sunday and see what that's about. But anyway, going out into the community and having your temple available. And it could be just lay people, just, you know, wearing a manto shikisho or something to, you know, show that you're a Buddhist. And because people are, this is the thing, Americans are really interested in Buddhism. You say Zen, and oh, you know, that means you're calm. And so I want to have Shin as, you know, gratitude. And Reverend Matsumoto has said, who just retired as president of IBS, and one of the great instructors there, said Shin Buddhism is the most, I'm not sure what he said exactly, like it's the most important religion we have to offer in America. And that's true. Yes? Yeah. Yeah.
to learn these things. And I think that's why I've talked to people who are Caucasian, who are not, who grow up in the church, and they're very interested in that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, as a Buddhist, I don't know how to translate that to come to our temple, because I went out, this was
Right.
a while back, but before Shaka Sensei here, but,
Yeah.
you know, how to
Bring people.
to get those.
Right. Well, I think we should have that. And I know OCBC has that. And I'm explaining in the book. I think we have this aversion toward meditation because of the word meditation in Japanese is zazen, which means sitting in meditation to achieve satori, to achieve something. But we had meditation in San Diego because it's meditating to realize introspection to see what we receive. And so these words, we don't practice because it's not pure. There's an ego intent in that. Yes, I have an ego intent to, better myself or whatever. But again, Shinnan's quote that beneath the clouds of anger and, ignorance, there's light. So we have these things. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, please.
So I'm going to use a mic so it gets onto the stream as well. So I have Terry Omori on Zoom with me here, who is his counterpart in all of this programming. And she said, she went back and she suggested that we check out other temple websites, and we may find out something that fits us, which is we're in the process of doing here. So at the other temples that are joining in, please check that out. And then when you find activities, it's what fits your temple, but keep it simple. So she's got a very good point there, is to keep it simple. Otherwise, it becomes, overwhelming for us, and then we're going to give up. So I agree 100%. And then she said in Vista, that's her home temple, has a Wednesday meditation service via Zoom. They collaborate with Orange County, OCBC, and the ministers assistants take turn facilitating. People in Buddhism join in. It's a safe way to check it out. Then they usually return. If they are local, they eventually come to Sunday service. They meet the Sangha, enjoy their time, create relationships, and engaged. Leads to becoming members, or at least very supportive Sangha. So Terry is sharing with us remotely. So I'll pipe in when she does. I didn't realize she was doing this, so thank you.
Great. Thank you, Terry. But yeah, it is just about these things that we may not have been looking at. But Buddhism has a great, I guess you call it a brand in America, right? And this is what I noticed in the 70s and 80s when I was going out and listening to all the gurus coming to the Bay Area. I'd say, this is Buddhism. Guru such and such would say, meditate, or, and I said, this is Buddhism. I'd go back to temple, and we're still doing stuff we did in the 50s and 60s, and we're still doing it in the 21st century. And I think we should continue, but the rationale could be updated to a contemporary. And, when they ask, do you meditate? Yes. Do you stand on your head? Yes. Do you do, whatever? Yeah, we do that. You just bring people in and, especially gratitude. And I have a thing on appreciating all the little things in life, practicing saying thank you. The thing we do every day is itadakimasu, thank you for the meal. And the other thing is every time you come to a stoplight, a yellow light and then a red light, instead of saying whatever you might think, say thank you, because the green light is for the other people, and that's harmony. You're not having an accident. But anyway, just saying thank you for the light switch, the water faucet, door locks, whatever, a car. So there's gratitude, really, and this is how it is in the East and in Japan. They appreciate everything. And so it's just developing a practice to be aware of that. Eventually that goes into Namo Amida Butsu, Namandam. But it needs to start, simply. And I think thank you or gratitude is the opening gate. So, okay, I better hustle on here, talking blah, 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 blah. Okay, community outreach. Yeah, so those are the things here. And, okay, now, we'll go back. Any other questions? We'll briefly go through the benefits, and that's going back to page, whatever it is, on your handout, 2, I think. And what we have here, gratitude, and again, this is something people do, and if you actually practice this, you find that there's benefit. Instead of complaining about things, you find out that there are so many things we receive that we haven't acknowledged. And so that talk I gave this morning for the Dharma school kids, Ji-chan saying namandavs all the time, just saying thank you, waking up, shifting our minds from what doesn't work to what works. So that's why, number one, the Dharma, and this is what you may or may not share with people, because my thought is that the Dharma is the Buddhist truth. Why are we doing this? It's not just Guru such and such said so. The Buddha, a singular individual, a human being, came up with these things, and it was so effective that it affected millions over 2,600 years in different forms. And it's based on, most of it is based on natural law, like gravity. Everything is impermanent, everything is connected. And, you heard of form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and I say, the guy 100 years ago said something similar that we now believe. Einstein said, everything is mass and energy. That mass is just energy. And it grows. You have a tree that grows because it takes in energy and light, water, nutrients, and it grows to a big tree. When you burn that limb, it releases that energy and light and heat. What is Amida? Infinite life and light, immeasurable light. So we have flowers and candles, light. This is, and I'm using the word life energy. So life energy is kind of designated by a human form, but also it is Amida, just sound, namandavs, light energy, which pervades everything that we're aware of. And it came from our ancestors. It goes on to, even if we don't have biological children, it goes on to whoever we're interacting with. So we have this spirituality that is based on, what we could say is science in a way. It's not science. It has great advantages because science doesn't explain why. It says, it gives you what is happening, but mythology tells you why. And the why is the vow. We share this because it makes our life worthwhile. That somehow in this impossible universe where we have one sun and a little planet circling it among billions of galaxies in the universe, we're here. So why? It's so that we can share this human life. What do? We share that with others. And so it makes it makes pickleball sacred. All the things we're doing, and we take great, pride in that. And it's not about me getting more money and, it's just sharing. And the people we admire are the people who, share the most. So that's what this religion is based on. I want to hear that. As I said, we all want to live like princes, and we kind of are. Some of us are able to do all these things. Cars, TVs, air conditioning, and yet it's all going to end for most of us in this room within 50 years. But then it goes on in this life energy, life spirit, Amida Buddha. So it's not mystical in that sense, but it is something real. And this is what we want to pass on to our children. Sure, we want them to live comfortably. And yet, in this world where there are wars and all these things going on, we want to show that there is something greater than just material security. There is no material security. So anyway, that's again, I'm preaching too long here. Okay, true nature of self. And here again, we talk about life energy, that it's not me, it's we. that an authentic adult identifies himself as a group. And, I am the Sangha. OCBC has this video. I am OCBC. Each person says that. And you see that there was an ad for one of the colleges that says, I am UCSF or something like that. And we see that in sports. Who's a 49er fan? We see people invested in being part of a group. And we do that naturally as humans. We're a family. We're a group. Shin Temple participation, again, to hear the Dharma, how it affects others. And then what do we do as Shin Buddhists? We support others. And the activities we have right now show that. All the education, the Dharma school, preschool sometimes, elder support. So we're doing that, and we have to realize that's part of doctrine. That's part of Shin doctrine. And then spiritual awareness. What other religion has so many memorial services? Why do you put flowers? Why do you clean that gravesite? A bunch of stones? Why do you go often to a cemetery or Nokotsudo to put flowers? We stay connected. This is the life energy, Amida Buddha. It's just a thought. It's not just a thought. It is a real thing that we feel connected. We have memorial services for people who died in the month of, December. We have annual Obon. We say the spirits come back. I say the spirits are always here. It just wake up that, oh, I forgot, Mama, did I hear? And they help to have pictures in our home, Obotsudan. But we validate the fact that someone's passed on, their body is gone, we don't interact with them physically, but we still interact with them, spiritually. And that's real. That's not just a thought in our minds. And Shin Buddhism, really validates. We continue. And so I want to make that point clear because that's what we're about. And it's not just that I told you because I'm a minister and, I got ordained. It is part of doctrine. We continue with this Amida, life energy. And we say that, and this is what Namo Amida Butsu is about. So anyway, those are the, what I feel are part of the six envision. So what is this program? A bunch of things. You got an idea what's out there. As Terry said, this is not expected, okay, put in this program and by next month we're going to see if it works. No, it's an ongoing thing. Just see how your temple, what we're doing now. Are we doing these things? Is it easy for a newcomer to become engaged? And Terry and I are willing to, work with individual temples because it has to be individual. And just implement a few things. I would say the main things would be that name and email at events, whether it's just coming to temple or a fundraiser or Obon or something, and then these introductory talks, just talk about benefits. And then the other part is getting membership to take part. And what you'll find is that it changes the personality or character of the temple. Rather than being insular and, you go up and talk to that new person. No, everyone says, hi, my name's Kenji, what's your name? And that's all it takes. And what's happening in San Jose, we have some new people coming, and I've been poking around. They asked me to be up in the Onaijin. I stay in the Gejin, and I meet people. And it's the new people who are more recently here who are going up to the newer people, and saying, hi, my name's Kevin, what's yours? And engaging them in hospitality and talking to them. And the more traditional members often are in their groups talking, which is okay, but we need to engage people at, especially the newcomers. So, any questions online or anyone still awake out there? Oh, yes. Yeah.
Almost as an outsider, it seems like it's
Yeah.
And we have people involved in the temple activities. We have people that are very involved in temple activities that grew out of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, I want to call it success.
No, I'm glad you said that because I think I failed to mention that in addition to creating new things, we had San Jose Judo Club, part of Buddhist Judo Club. We had San Jose, or Taiko Kindness started with Reverend Abiko, at the temple. But, bonsai, all those things had San Jose. But now most of the people attending those groups are not temple members. So we need to go out and say, judo members, you're not learning how to throw people. Judo, kendo, all that is finding about yourself through these sports. You're not making a flower arranging to be beautiful. You're learning more about yourself through flower arranging. And so we need to go to the groups that we may be supporting already and saying, wouldn't you like to join the temple as a member to expand yourself and learn more about how this affects your life? But now, it's gotten to be where, I just want to learn how to a martial art or flower arrange or bonsai. But that's all connected to developing the self, connecting with the whole, of Buddhist thought. They all have do in back of it, the path of judo, kendo, aikido, so forth. So yeah, thank you.
And Terry says, yes, Taiko.
Taiko. Yeah, Taiko's a great thing. Start.
Typing away here, so let me get on so that it gets on Zoom. So she says, so Dan from Cortez, which is part of Stockton, is saying how Taiko is, in quotes, successful in their efforts of expanding and bringing in new people. And so Terry said, Taiko, yes. At Vista, Taiko is a part of our Buddhist practice. We have gained members as well. The Taiko groups are ambassadors for our temple. And as an outsider to Taiko, but not an outsider to our temple, when I joined, I tried to join. I really don't have a lot of time, but I tried to join, and I went, and they have the recipe for success because I think it's like Reverend Akahoshi just said, see, I got it right, that you listen to the Dharma so you learn about yourself. But then these people in this group have a high success rate of interconnecting and making that a family. And when you hang out with these people, it's completely different, and not to say Dharma school teachers are bad, but it's completely different than Dharma school teachers who are there just like a working volunteer thing. We're very close and everything, but the ambiance is different because of the family that this Taiko group has created, based, I think, exactly on what you're saying, is they've taken the lessons in between Taiko and self-discipline, and then what Reverend Candace is giving them to learn about themselves, and then turn that into an interconnected experience. So their group is just different. You all have to join Taiko, because this is a really, just to sit there and listen at their meetings. You think, well, I don't want to go to a Taiko meeting, but you listen to their meetings or where they're talking, it's different. And it's exactly what you were saying. So y'all have to talk to Chris now about joining Taiko.
Okay, that's, anyone else want to share some thoughts? Yes.
I'll say one thing, I probably shouldn't. But it seems like to me, you have all these programs for people who are possibly interested in Buddhism and might be interested in Buddhism, but nothing woven into how those people got to where they are religiously. Okay? So, you really have to understand where this person is in their life to where they might want to be exposed to Buddhism. And I didn't hear any of that, because I don't, that most of the Buddhists here don't realize, and I can only speak from a Catholic Church thing, is that when you're born with original sin. So you're already indoctrinated. And you go to baptism, get rid of the original sin. Then you go to First Communion, so you can get the body of Christ. Then you get the confirmation, so that you can be, so you're really indoctrinated. And a lot of these people in a lot of the other different religions are really indoctrinated into this, and you have to find out how they got there, why they're there, and how you can possibly change them into Buddhists, rather than just having a passing fancy. Because like you say, these people with a passing fancy come once and then, don't come back.
But, JSIO has 2 publications out now that are a collection of essays that are written by lay people and ministers that came to us from another faith. That's crossing over. And then Making Temple Home is the second book, which is about how people feel in the temple community. These are free publications, so maybe Reverend Candace and I for Stockton need to get a hold of some of those and make them available, and to people who are, especially those people who are just checking us out. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, I'll bet we never heard of it either.
True. So pick my brain. But bringing that up, Fred, is maybe that's something that we should.
This is part of this intra-temple communication, that there's so much out there. BCA, there's so many volunteers doing things, and ministers and people writing books and pamphlets and so forth. And people say, I don't know what it's about. There's nothing there. It's out there. We just have to communicate that on Saturdays, go here, and it's online. A lot of the things are on on video. Yeah.
I think maybe it needs to be, I know one of the new things is when we're making announcements of something, and you say SBWA, now say that's the Stockton Buddhist Women's Association, so then people will understand what SBWA is, because I had a teacher, when I was teaching, he would go to seminars, and they would use acronyms, and I'd be thinking, what is that? And so that's why I think that is good, but also I know being married to the former Catholic, who is now Buddhist, that we don't know what these things are. So maybe when someone like me comes in, or, instead of saying, oh, it's out there, and we're busy too, and we're on the board, and we're on committees and stuff, but we don't know, I mean, to actually, and I know Fred's gone online and looked for Buddhist things, but maybe to have some kind of bibliography that can pass out to people, even people who have been Buddhist their whole life. We grew up as Buddhists, and yet, if you talk to a lot of us, it's like, well, we grew up here, and now our friends are here, and so to know more about it.
I think that's my job too, and Debbie and I can talk about
Eh,
this. Available to you, everything I've learned about this. That's part of doing this, it's not just listening.
Yeah.
I'd also go back to your website thing, and I think, like a lot of people here, I would suspect, won't go to the store, will go to Amazon and buy something. Okay, so they're online shoppers. And I think what we're getting now is a lot of online religious people. I get all my religion online, just like I do everything else. So I think that part of it is the way society's going. And if we're going to move on, that's something we really have to accentuate.
Thank you.
So Terry's got something else. So Terry wants to remind us that we're trying to create a safe space where one can express, reflect, and ask questions. And especially after a Dharma message, or when children go to Dharma school classes, that's another place that we need to make sure that we're creating safe spaces for our kids. And to Kathy's point, you have worked real hard at getting us to get rid of those acronyms. So I think we just need to follow through a little bit more diligently. So yes, definitely though.
I'll say one more thing about the internet. If you go to Wikipedia right now and you look up BCA and Jodo Shinshu religion, there'll be a paragraph in there that'll say that it's basically the last bastion of Japanese society here in America, which is kind of a turnoff to anybody who isn't Nihonjin. So I think That's the perception people have, just like the perception have Buddhism, it's all about suffering. I mean,
Yeah.
we get that, and those are things that we have to change. And I think the internet's the way to do it, because that's the way society is going. I mean, if you have a 14-year-old and you took away their phone, you might as well shoot them.
But I think to supplement all of this and the ideas and the knowledge of what the BCA is offering you, I really encourage you to go to BuddhistChurchesOfAmerica.org. Because even for the minister assistants that are training, you can get chanting on there and chant at home. You can practice your chanting at home along with the minister because it's a minister's recording. For those of us that like the music, it's the links to all the music videos are on that website. We're working on getting connections for, like, say KC wants to do some lesson plans at home with their kids. Dharma School is trying to get their lesson plan website linked. So that's a constantly evolving source of ideas, and shows you where all the temples are. Who we are is much better than what I was saying. So I think, and it's an evolving website, and you can find out what other temples activities are on there as well. So we're working hard to make that a valuable resource that I don't think a lot of people go to.
Well, that's the people that have shown interest. I think we have to hit those people who have no interest to get them to have an interest, because that is a much larger population base.
And I think for those of us who are older, like Darlene has said in the past, younger people, obviously younger than those of us whose age starts with the number 7, they find all their information online. And we grew up when we had to carry around textbooks all day. And I think to tell those of us with memory issues, this is where you can get your information, a handout. I know it costs money to print things, but a handout, so that when those of us, when I go to book club of former coworkers who are all Caucasian, and we read a book and it's got some Buddhist tenets in it and they ask me about it, then I can answer life is suffering, but that's not all there is. It's about how to overcome that with gratitude and mindfulness. You're overcoming that suffering because of, Buddha learned when he was in India. And you can get some more information by going to these websites if you'd like, but I can't remember that. As soon as you announce it here, I walk out of the window and it's gone.
Well, we can make your new VP of membership create the flyer and then be sure that those types of things be included in it. Not every one, but maybe it rotates, right?
That would be Charlie.
Yes, that would be Charlie. That would be the other side of the house, but he's gonna have to do the
So this is where I encourage people who are here to volunteer to help to implement this. As I said, it's not just a group of 3 or 4 people. It is the membership. And to get your family to say, hey, we'd like to expand and grow our Sangha, and this is how we do it. I have a secret way of expanding attendance. Each person, I'll double your attendance. Each person just bring a friend next time. Your attendance will double. Okay, so you had a question?
I was going to say, as somebody, I think I'm biased in that I was, raised in the temple since I was 5. What I am always interested in is talking to people who came to the temple later in life. Because I
Yeah.
know I'm biased because this is all I grew up with. Yes, I knew about Christianity, of course, because we live in society, but it's different for somebody who's basically been really, raised in the religion. I always find it fascinating to talk to people who were not from that background.
Thank you. I look at the values of Japanese, Japanese culture, influenced by Jodo Shinshu, but not becoming Japanese, but using the values of gratitude, humility, those kinds of things. And that's international. That's universal. So that's what we're getting across. And saying it could be, it's a very American, it's a common thing. And so we use that. The whole thing about good and bad is a very Western, Wilbur talks about that duality.
So here's Terry's opinion. Based on my experience, it is important to find the balance at your temple, your current members and potential members. Eventually, you become one Sangha and continue to welcome newcomers. This is a process, but a positive process.
Yeah. Yeah. Japanese words.
The practical aspect, I like to come to service every Sunday, which is why my son had 15 years perfect Sunday school attendance. So did I. Because growing up, to me that was church, that was religion. Every Sunday I walked the 2 blocks to church and then I walked back. And I think that that's the way a lot of people will look at it. It's how they grew up, what they experienced, and that's kind of what they look at. For me now, I look at that as being, that's being a Buddhist, is going to service every Sunday. That's just the reality of it. And then I realized someone told me in Japan, they don't have Sunday service. Huh? But then came service during the summer, because everybody used to be a farmer, and they're not farming anymore, but we still want to have service in the summer.
And I would like to say that my formerly Catholic husband he had memorized Jusei.
Oh.
And I had not.
And that's sad.
don't recognize their face, we still need to embrace them. Because I came twice, nobody talked to me, so I quit coming to this church. The only when Ruby Dobana found out that I played the organ and I was dating somebody whose parents happened to be very active in the temple, then doors started opening and people started talking to me. But when I came here with a friend, I was from San Jose, he was from Mountain View, we came because we're going to UOP, nobody said anything. So my question to all of you is, we have anywhere from 5 to 7 UOP students that come on a regular basis. How many of you can even name one name of one of those people that comes all the time, other than Lucy, she thinks about it. You know what I mean? Because have you stopped to say, hey, thanks for coming in, where are you from? And it's okay, I'll say, I can't remember your name.
Oh, yeah.
So, who are you? I forgot your name, who are you? I know you come all the time. And then gradually we learn their names, but that breaks the ice. But they sit in this fourth row, week after week, and how many of us have taken the time to say hello and thanks for coming, right?
And how many of them are maybe from Cortez, Hawaii, or they don't come here very often? So people who only come here know who those people are until getting married and started going there. I didn't know who the people from Cortez were, and I know someone here right now who left to go work in another city and then came back after she retired, or after a while, and nobody would talk to her because everybody had their own little groups. So we need to make sure that we reach out to anybody who's not a part of our own regular group, even though I sat with them, I don't name of a regular group. But yeah.
Okay.
I do want to be mindful of Sensei's time. It's 2:50, and I know he has a 3 o'clock meeting.
Well, it's the San Jose general meeting, and again, I haven't been very involved, and I want to know what's been going on.
So those of you that are on YouTube or going to watch YouTube later, we want to take a moment to thank Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi for coming here and taking the time to help us kind of open our eyes. We hope that the handouts that you received in your emails are helpful, and you can reach out to himself or Terry Omori, who is on Zoom with me, joining us from Vista, taking time again out of her busy schedule. And they are both very passionate about strengthening Sanghas, so please take the time to reach out to them. I know Terry's email is very easy. We all have first initial, last name at bcahq.org. So if you have any questions, be sure to, if you don't know how to reach us, give the church a call, and we'll go ahead and get you hooked up. Right?
My email is just Kenji Akahoshi, all lowercase, nothing in between, kenjiakahoshi@gmail.com.
Okay.
So I'm
Great.
with
So
that.
hopefully our NC Temples will take this to heart, and we really appreciate everything you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, this is a lot of material, and we hope that temples will share what works with their temple with other temples in their district or any other thing. So anyway, this is just an outline, and what we're just emphasizing is that it's comprehensive, and it'll take months and months and years, but we're changing, hopefully, the personality or the culture of the temple where everyone is starting to greet each other. And volunteering, as I said, what are we about? Service. And it's rather than sitting home and watching the game or favorite TV show that we go out and, get involved. And no, they're going to ask me to do this. Yes, that's what life is about. So anyway, thank you for staying awake.